Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Life Mastery, and I'm excited to have Marcos Rivera, who's the founder and CEO of Pricing IO, where he helps B2B SaaS companies capture the value they build. He was former head of pricing at Vista Equity Partners, and he's priced over 400 plus SaaS products, and he's the author of the book Street Pricing. Welcome to the show, Marcos.
Rohit, thanks a lot for having me.
Awesome. So, you've had a very interesting journey. How did you get your start in this crazy world of startups and the pricing world?
Yeah, it's funny because I wasn't planning to be a pricing person or anything like that. This was one of those things that evolves. I always wanted to be in business. I love technology. So my roots are in product management, actually. So I was building software. And this is way back in the dinosaur ages where there was like on-prem and mainframe and all those things. And so as I kept building all these new products and launching them, I had to figure out how to price them. At least that's the way our company operated. So as I kept pricing products and seeing them grow, I realized like, man, this is actually a really cool way to blend, psychology with business and math and all the things I loved. And so it just kept going and going and getting deeper into pricing. And I learn something every day, even though I've been doing this for 25 years. It's a great place to be.
Super interesting. I've seen a lot of product guys, move into pricing, and you priced over 400 plus B2B SaaS products. What's the single biggest pricing mistake you see repeated across companies, and why do even smart founders keep doing it?
Yeah. Oh man, I only get one, Rohit. I only get one. Let me think about this. Right. So we're actually clocking closer to 500 now. But the idea here is, if I had to call out like the most common mistake that I'm seeing, is I'm going to go a little bit deeper because most people would say, "Oh, not pricing enough, or not revisiting your pricing." Everybody gets that. But there's really a lot of underpricing going on, especially for mid and upper size deals. So think about larger deals and contracts. Whenever I look at pricing, that's usually one of the first places I start to uncover and peel back, like what set the price, what happened, and what it usually is they either copied someone else. They either, had a price point from a long time ago, never challenged it, never raised it, or they were just really worried about closing the deal and just discounted the hell out of it, and that became the new price. And so when there's more willingness to pay, they weren't capturing it. So for me, it's that pricing is always falling behind the product, and that usually is most pronounced on the bigger deal sizes.
Got it. And you mentioned that you were a product manager, and so you went from being a product manager to being Vista Equity's head of pricing. So what was that aha moment that made you realize that pricing was your calling, and how did your PM experience shape your pricing philosophy?
Oh man. So it actually, I can pinpoint when this happened, right? So as I was moving up the ranks in product management, PM and then a manager, director, and so on, as I kept moving up, when I was moved to director, I was given a product that was not mine. I inherited it from somebody else. And it was seat-based pricing. And it was
Right.
basically like a dispatching tool, like optimizing routes and all that stuff. And it was seat-based pricing. And it was interesting when I looked at the numbers. The better we did, the less revenue we got because you can do more with fewer resources. But then when at the renewal, the company would say, "Hey, we actually need fewer seats now because you're you're optimizing our process so much," and it just didn't feel right. And so after digging deeper, talking to the customer, doing some research, and looking at what data correlates with growth and just running basic correlations and things like that. Yes, I am a numbers and data nerd too. But what I was doing was finding like where we could potentially change the pricing from seats to something else. And we were selling to insurance companies. And so per claim made a lot of sense. We tested like 5 or 6 different ones, but per claim made the most sense. After changing that, it turned out that it aligned much better to how the insurance companies were tracking value and cost and things like that, and claims would go up, right? So ultimately, it took us from a $300,000 in ARR to 30 million in ARR over 2.5 years. That's a
Oh,
100x jump, Rohit, right?
yeah.
In 2.5 years. And so for me, that's where I was like, whoa, this is a powerful lever, and most folks are not pulling it.
Got it. And do you think pricing is more art or it is more science? And where do you think the intuition ends, and when should data actually begin in your framework?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people do see pricing as a blend of art and science. I actually see it a little bit differently. I see it as art informed by science. And what I mean by that is there's judgment. You have to make decisions on a lot of different nuances. You have to read and understand people and motivations and things like that. But the more data you have, the better you can drive your decision making, the better you can calculate risks, and the better you can sort of plan out the next steps. So for me, it's art informed by science. That's how I look at it.
Got it. And a lot of SaaS founders, they treat pricing, which happens once every couple of months or years, even when the product is changing monthly. Do you think a company should have those pricing reviews every quarter or every couple of months? Do you have that sort of cadence? And why is this such sort of a psychological barrier where they're not trying to change the pricing?
Yeah, there are a lot of barriers to this. I think it's a moving target because, like you said, the product is constantly updating. They don't understand their customers well enough. I'm just going to say it out loud. Like a lot of companies out there do not really talk with their customers and get deeper in terms of what they need. Or maybe they do it in the beginning and then forget and then get out of touch over time. So it's lack of understanding of the customer. It's a moving target in terms of market changes, competitor changes, your products changes. And a lot of them don't all collect the data. We talked a minute ago about the science informing the art, right? But a lot of them are missing some of the key data points, even basic things like opportunities and what was in the opportunity, close lost, the close won, those kind of things. So you're having a lot of gaps. And not to mention, it's kind of scary to change your pricing and you have your base to roll it out to. Your sales reps need to adopt it. You don't want to slow down any sales momentum. You don't want to give an opening to a competitor. So it's very nerve-wracking to do that. So I think those are the reasons why people don't change pricing that often. It's not because they don't feel like it. I think there's some real barriers there. Now, when I think about changing pricing in a frequency or on a cadence, you're right. Most companies, they just have an episodic change. Holy crap, we're losing deals. Our growth is plateauing. Let's change something. And I think it needs to be a bit more of a product of the product, if you will, like has a life cycle, and you change it on a actual rhythm is the way to do it. Now, what does that rhythm look like? I changed my mind on this one. So I used to say the 2x2 rule is the best rule in SaaS, and 2x2 means that if you just change your pricing, give it like 2 quarters to play out. Don't knee jerk and change it immediately. Let it play out and see how it's adopting or how folks are adopting it. And the other 2 is if you haven't changed your pricing in 2 years, it's probably stale, right? So those are my bookends. And today with AI and agents and the pace in which this is moving, I actually think you should be changing your pricing every 2 quarters. Some even quarterly, depending on where your stage is, right? If you're really early on trying to understand value and figure out how your AI use cases and usage patterns, you may want to change it quarterly. I saw a paper that said the average change is 3.2 changes a year. But a lot of this has to do with, as you know, OpenAI changing a lot and Cursor and all these companies. So the pace is a lot more frequent than it used to be for AI.
Got it. And since you mentioned about AI, so should AI capabilities be bundled? Should there be a usage based pricing or a hybrid pricing? And where do you see that sort of pricing work going from here?
Oh man, that you just stepped on a big topic for me. Okay, so let me unpack this a little bit. I have a lot of conversations, but one thing that I understand is that there's a lot of movement towards usage-based pricing, right? And the reason why is to really cover a lot of that LLM costs and making sure you don't lose your shirt on your margin as your customers adopt your product. So there needs to be some way to capture some of that. So that is introducing variability in pricing, right? If you think about SaaS pricing, you can get away with fixed flat fee, $99 per user. You can get away with that in many cases, even if it's not that correlated with value, because the margins are high and stable. And as you keep building and extending the platform, bolting on modules, adding integrations, whatever that is, the margins still kind of stay intact. but not in AI, not with agents. You can have one agent with a 60% margin and another one with a 10% margin. Just depends on the cost, how much tokens it's consuming and how much users are using it. So there's a lot of variability back there. So usage-based pricing is becoming a great way to soften that from a margin perspective. But here's the problem: not everyone is ready for usage-based pricing, right? Sounds good, right? When you and I say it, right, it sounds good. But there's infrastructure concerns, there's process concerns, there's tracking concerns, there's sales compensation concerns. There's all these different things that you have to set the stage for before you roll into usage-based pricing. So my advice is not to just leap in from say you're charging by seats today, Rohit.
Yeah.
Leap from pure seats to pure consumption or pure usage. I think that is a very dangerous way to go about it. You mentioned hybrids a second ago. It is a very popular model to go in and try to blend subscription or flat with some usage. And I think that's good because that sort of starts to train the customer and condition them that there's usage that you need to track and it matters, because beforehand they didn't have to pay attention to that stuff. So you have to sort of ease it in either by introducing fences or allocations of the usage, so that way they can not have to be as a pay as you go or pay by the drink, but understand that, hey, if you consume your allotment or if you consume your entitlements, there will be, we'll have to bump you up to the next tier or whatever that is. That, I think, is what's being very popular right now.
Right. I've used tools like Clay.com where they use seed-based pricing, but also use credit-based pricing. But do you think like what Sam Altman says, like 2025 or 26 will be the year of AI agents? Do you think when the AI agent model works, are people going to use more hybrid-based pricing or usage-based pricing, where agents are going to speak to each other, or where do you see the pricing going from there?
Yeah, I think Sam and all those LLM CEOs are very visionary and aspirational, right? 90% of jobs will be taken over by AI by the end of the year. Like they're very aspirational. I get it, and that's kind of what they need to be in order to keep driving their company forward. I think agents will become a very well-known and sort of entrenched in on a lot of different workflow and productivity and decision making and things like that. 2025, 26, I'd say it's probably more like 2027, 28. It's probably going to take a little bit more time. And the reason why is because humans still need to change processes or rethink them, adopt them. Some agents, frankly, don't live up to the promise, and some do, right? And so there needs to be some time there. Even coding, for example, vibe coding and all that craze. Some of it is fine for more straightforward applications, and some applications it's just not quite there yet, right? And so I think there's going to be a time for that to develop. But how do you price all that? Like, how do you price agents and some autonomous or independent system doing something for you? And what the key here is that the delegation is going from the human to the system now, right? And so now that you're delegating to the system can now capture a little more percentage of that value, as long as it's super clear that the system is responsible for that value. And this is, Rohit, this is where it gets a little bit messy. And so what I'm seeing with a lot of companies out there, Zendesk and Intercom do it, Chargeflow does it, Decagon, all these different companies that have some agentic solution, is that there's a fixed component and a variable component, where the fixed component usually covers, the configuration, the training, the onboarding, a lot of basic stuff. And then there's an outcome component that is counting some sort of unit of work. And maybe that unit of work is transactions, authorizations approved, like I've seen in health tech, or legal discovery packages summarized, like in legal tech. So they're I'm seeing a lot of verticals take a big step forward in this, and it's easier to define what that outcome is. It's very specific, it's very clear, and it's sort of the anti-outcome is what they need to define too. What do I mean? I mean, what does not count as an outcome, so that way we don't get into arguments about, charging. And so I think fixed and variable is going to be very popular. And even to the point where for some companies or industries where they're really kind of skittish about variable, they love more predictability, they love other things, the fixed component is bigger and the variable component is smaller. Maybe it's more milestone driven. Hey, when we hit this threshold, we get a payment or a fee. Maybe we hit that threshold, we get a payment and fee. And so it allows them to get deeper and deeper with the agent over time, which is exactly what you want.
Got it. And when a company is experiencing a lot of churn, and when you find out that it's not a pricing problem, so what are some of the common underlying issues that you uncover, and how do you go about this diagnosing with the team that it may not be pricing, but it could be something else?
That's a great question. Usually behind a pricing problem, there's another problem back there, right? It could be product related. It could be even customer success onboarding related, right? It could be a lot of different places. So I'll give you five kind of key things that I think about, right? We do a lot of diagnosing, so I can give you 10, but let me give you 5 quick ones here, right? So the first one here is the frequency and depth of discounting, right? So are you discounting 50% of your deals, 20%, 99%? How many deals are getting discounted? And then how deep do you go once you get there? Are you seeing 5% discounts, 50% discounts? That tells me a lot about about how sales is using the discount. Is it a crutch? Is it a way to get something over the line? And that can tell me that there could be a lack of sales discipline, a lack of alignment in sales incentives, or either could even be selling to the wrong customer and using discounting as a way to get in there. And so after you look at discounting, you also want to look at churn, right? You mentioned churn a second ago. One of my biggest things I ask companies to do, if you're not doing this today, is to please capture churn reasons. And listen, I know they're not 100% accurate, right? But at least they're directional. And if you can capture churn reasons and churn trends, like time to churn, the reason behind it, and maybe any usage correlations to churn, you can start seeing where the imbalance is happening. Because when people buy, Rohit, right, the price and the value is sort of meeting. And then over time, if the price is still here but the value goes down, that's how you get churn. That's where the gap happens. And so what happened from the point when they purchased to the point when they stopped using you? And it usually has something to do with they never got the full value. If that's your number one churn reason, then you have more of an onboarding problem and potentially a packaging problem. What I mean by that is the onboarding never got them to value, or there was just so much stuff in that plan you could not get them to the right level. There was too many hurdles to jump over, and therefore they ended up feeling like they never adopted and they churned. So that's another big takeaway. So you have your discounting, your churn. Also look at your mix. When I say mix, I mean distribution of customers in your entry plan, your middle plan, your base plan, whatever it is. And if you're seeing most of your customers hang out in the entry plan and not upgrade, then you have a problem. And it may not be that you're too expensive. It could be that entry plan might be too generous. It could also mean that the gap to the next plan is too far. It's too big, and so they can't make the jump. So there's a couple things there that are around structure. I think that's 3, right? Okay, I'll give you a 4th one, which is that win rates.
Right.
When I look at win rates, I look for pockets of where the win rates are particularly high or particularly low. Why is a high win rate a problem? If you're winning 80% of your deals and no one's even pushing back on price, you probably are underpriced. And that's a good signal that you might need to raise that price. On the flip side, if you're not winning any deals, then you need to unpack that. If your win rate is 12%, right, adjusted for the industry, of course. But think about it. If you're not winning deals, if you're losing 9 out of 10 deals, then you have to start breaking down when you hear the no. And if it's really early, then you have a value framing problem, a positioning problem. If it's really late in your sales cycle, then you might have a pricing problem. So it's really, when do you hear the no? It really helps you drive where your problems are and dig deeper. All right. Listen, I went through all that, but I can go on this all day long. But those are some of the key diagnostic things that I look for.
Got it. No, absolutely makes sense. And, we work with more than 500 plus companies now, but what's the most counterintuitive pricing change that you've recommended, which allowed you to both increase revenue and customer satisfaction?
Most counterintuitive. There was one that comes out that really surprised me. And what we did was we were looking at their complete packaging and structure. It's a platform. It's in the construction industry, right? Workflow, project management, things like that. And it was interesting because they've built such a robust platform. It was so robust that I'm like, guys, we have to figure out a way to create a nice ladder for some companies with lower maturity to come in, and other companies, with more advanced needs to take advantage of that. And you have a nice tiering system and all that stuff. But after looking closer at the data, what we found is that a lot of companies really used a big chunk of the platform, which is rare. In many cases, customers use like a small percentage of the features in the platform. That's the reality. And they build muscle memory around those features, okay? But not this one. It was interesting. The small customers and the big customers behaved kind of the same. And they used a very large percentage of all the features. And so we went a complete different path where we just said, let's give them full access to the platform, and we'll scale on something else, like number of projects and project fees and things like that. So we ended up switching the model to give them actually like a huge base or core platform with most of it. You had a couple add-ons here and there, but they're very unique and specific. And it is very rare that I would want to go out the door with such a big glob of features and capabilities in a core. That kind of bothers me. But damn it, it worked. I mean, people loved it. Their willingness to pay was high. Their churn was really low. I mean, it worked out splendidly well. And they continue to build and add modules on top and things like that. But I usually do not do that. I usually try to create a very thoughtful path, and I usually try to align with each segment what they really want, which, by the way, works in 99% of the cases. But in this case, the behavior was just so different from everyone else. You have to think differently, right? So that one surprised me.
Interesting. And, you had earlier mentioned that you started off with pricing IO on your own, and now you've grown to a team of around more than 24 people. So, when were you initially trying to grow, what were you looking for with early hires, and how did you set that culture which allowed you to build the right sort of pricing professionals who could come in and help you grow the company along with you?
Oh man, I didn't expect you to ask me that. Okay, so let me be very raw and honest with you here. I did not plan to be this big, to have 24 people. We'll probably be 30 people in the next couple quarters here soon at this rate. So by myself, I was trying to be a solopreneur. I wanted full control of my time. That's the whole reason I started Pricing IO, to be with my family, my young kids, and to control when I travel and control my income and all that, okay?
Yeah.
But something started happening. It was whenever I delivered the pricing recommendations and help to get it launched, this information just made it up to the board, and then board members started reaching out to me. And people I don't even know, they're saying, hey, I saw your deck at a board meeting. I'm on the board of so-and-so company. Can you please help my other company and do the same thing there? Completely out of the blue, didn't understand that, board members, when they see good work, they probably want you to help their other companies too, right? They all have an incentive to grow, right? So I started helping other companies. And this thing, I'm going from 1 or 2 clients at a time to 3 or 4 at a time. And so this is how I built the company, okay? I started with a contractor analyst. I said, where am I spending the most of my time, and where should I really leverage it more? I think I should spend more of my time thinking about the solution to the problem, the model, the strategy, and then all this work in Excel and, listen, man, pivot tables and VLOOKUPs. I did it all, okay? Let's give that to somebody who's actually even better than me at this. So interviewed a ton of people, brought in. Then the work grew. I brought in a second person. And the work grew. I looked again. What is taking up my time? Administrative work, billing, invoicing, following up, email, scheduling, all that stuff. So then I brought in an EA on a contract basis, virtual, right? And so you can see how it's starting to begin, right? And went through a few cycles of people. People didn't work out. Some people really did. So once I had a core group of like 3 or 4 people that were consistent and were bought in and knew me and knew the process, and honestly were acting like employees, that's when I switched the company, and had employees for the first time. And this opened up a whole nother gate of, benefits and legal compliance and all that kind of stuff. And that was the beginning. And then I sort of built up from there as the demand dictated more people.
Interesting. And, we're recording this in 2025, but if somebody wants to get into this world of pricing, do you think they would need to get into product management and they can do pricing? Or do you think somebody even from revenue or somebody in sales can also get into pricing?
I think that I've met a lot of great pricing people from all walks, revenue side, sales side, marketing side, product finance side. They come from a lot of different angles, and they're all great. I think that where the product has a unique perspective because we are really tasked with understanding and delivering value to customers, identifying jobs to be done, identifying needs, identifying use cases. Not a lot of people do that kind of stuff. It almost sounds like another language when you're talking to people. Like my grandmother had no idea what I did when I was a product manager. She still doesn't know what I do. But either way, it's hard to explain to someone at a dinner party, right, what you do.
True.
And so I think there is a unique position in that product marketing, product management do have that sort of special training. But it doesn't mean that someone from sales or someone from finance couldn't be successful in pricing. There's a lot of great finance people out there who understand business and value and strategy and the numbers. And man, they pack a punch, right? So I think they can come from all walks.
Got it. And you also always emphasize about a discipline in data collection. So what are some of the key 3 to 5 data points or metrics that every SaaS company should be tracking for pricing decisions?
That's a great one. There's more than 3 to 5. You're being very unfair to me today, Rohit. But let me give you some of the big ones, right, that we look for. So believe it or not, we do not see a lot of good fidelity on the opportunities win-loss. And here's what I mean by that. Like, it's not just something in HubSpot or Salesforce where it's opportunity win-loss. But what I'm seeing is even lack of what SKUs were on the deal or what was the original list price and how did you get to the final price. Basic things like that you would need to collect. And so what that helps us produce metrics like average revenue per deal, average revenue per SKU, unit prices, and also kind of see those trends over a time series. And are those prices getting bigger or smaller? Do they grow in a bundle or shrink in a bundle? Do they grow when this competitor is there or this competitor is not there? Like all those elements are missing in an opportunity. And I think it's a pretty straightforward fix, especially if you have a Salesforce system in place or a HubSpot to capture some of that and mine it and be able to use it. So I think that's the big one there. So that way you can see sort of the trend over time. What you're looking for is any changes up or down. The second thing I would say is what I call volatility, and this is a sort of the rate in which something is changing. Prices for one specific product. If you're seeing very wild swings, like plus or minus 40%, 50%, double, triple swings in price for the same product, right? You buy the thing at $50, the exact same thing was sold for $500. Like when you see that type of variability, that is a huge signal and a red flag around your pricing. And so you have to be able to track that variability across per product, per region, even per sales rep. Like you have to track it across all those things. A third one, if you don't understand how customers expand, meaning upsell and cross-sell, and this is interesting, you'd be surprised. If you ask 3 companies the definition of upsell, you'll get 4 different answers, okay? They have very different views of what upsell even means and when it happens. And so that needs to be very, very clear and captured because when a customer decides to buy more, that is a golden window into willingness to pay and into their price sensitivity.
Got it. And you've earlier talked about, aligning pricing initiatives onto the product roadmap. But how can, sales and marketing and leadership also be on the same alignment when you're talking about monetization and pricing?
And so the interesting thing about pricing is that some companies that don't do it at all, and then there's companies that do it in the shadows, right? They just kind of come up with something and then put it out there. And then there's companies that are really true collaborative teams. I always say pricing is a team sport, but it does need a strong captain, right? And otherwise nobody's going to do anything, right? So the idea is when it comes to the roadmap, like there should be a very visible swim lane for your pricing and packaging or monetization updates, right? So you have your swim lanes for your products or whatever, however you divide it up. There should be a swim lane for monetization, and you should be highlighting what you're doing to the pricing and packaging with each release and why. And that's one key there. But before you even get there, you probably need to align on what these changes are. And that's where pricing councils or pricing committees come in place. And these are usually 5 to 8 people, cross-functional, has a lead, somebody to scribe and centralize all the information. And oftentimes, it's not, depending on your size and stage as a company. If you're an early stage company, then it usually is the founder plus all the leaders. You're probably small enough where it's just you guys. But if you're bigger, if you're 30, 50, 80 million, oftentimes it's not the C-suite and it's not like the line workers. It's usually like a director, VP level in that meeting in the middle because they're close enough to the action and they also understand the strategy. So they're really a great fit. But sales, representation, customer success, rev ops, of course, you want product in there, marketing, all the key folks, finance, and they're in there, but somebody needs to drive the agenda and somebody needs to bring the data. That's the key. Most pricing committee meetings fail because nobody's really running it. They just kind of show up and talk about pricing, and that never really works. So you have to plan out, I would say, a cadence and rhythm for the year. We're going to meet the last Friday of every month to talk about pricing. Here's the agenda. Here's what we're talking about. Here's who needs to be there. And after your first 3 meetings, send out a short survey to all the attendees to say, was it valuable, the right level of detail, did you need to be there? And just make sure that meeting is super valuable. Because if it's not, it's just another waste of time on your calendar and it's not going to drive anything forward. But the reason why I'm harping on this so much, Rohit, is the companies who get this meeting right, those are the ones that are really high performing. Those are the ones that are monetizing and breaking through.
Got it. No, absolutely. I think sales guys get a lot of bad rep because they keep changing the pricing, and you have to custom build the pricing. But I think with AI coming in, I think all the department needs to be aligned on how the monetization and pricing needs to be worked.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
I will say that actually just brought up something real quick, just off the top of my head. Especially with AI, what I'm finding is when we work with a lot of companies, some of them are just trying to introduce AI for the first time into their platform. They feel like they're being left behind, so they want to do something with AI.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. Something with AI. Like nobody agrees on what they need to do, where it needs to go in the packaging, what the goal is of it. They got to do AI something. The board wants to see AI. We need to put some AI in there. That is a huge mistake, and it also makes pricing it very difficult. You have to be very intentional with what you're doing with your AI, whether you are really just enhancing the things you do at your core, or if you're trying to expand use cases to create some differentiation, or if you're trying to break into a new TAM, or if you're trying to dislodge or displace another product. Whatever you're doing, you have to be super explicit about it. It makes the pricing a lot easier, and it makes everyone also behind it. So just a quick point there is that a lot of murky AI strategy is going on, and that needs to be solved first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I heard it from one of the podcasts that a lot of SaaS companies are bundling with AI features and they are pricing it at a premium cost, saying that you'll get this AI feature along with it. But for example, I think Google Gemini was bundled with Google Maps, if I'm not wrong. But do you think is that a good strategy that that users can look at new AI features, or do you think that should be priced separately, or it should be, how should it be given to users?
Yeah, that's a slippery question, Rohit. I'll give you my way to think about it. There's really 3 ways you want to fold in AI if you have a current platform. And I call it pricing the experience. And so you either underscore the core, upgrade the more, or unlock the new. Let me explain. So underscore the core means that your strategy is to enhance whatever you do, searching and workflows and decision engine, whatever you're doing. And if the AI makes that better and faster and smarter, then fold it into your products and raise your prices, right? And I'm not talking 5% raises. I'm talking really take them up 10% plus. Especially if the user can see some of the AI and some of it's invisible. Either way, it's getting them to value faster. It's solving their jobs and use cases faster, or better, or deeper. Great. Then fold it in. And some companies where it's, I think we're just taking the things a bit further. Our products ended here, but now we can go a few steps further with AI. And it gets into more complex territory. You want to upgrade them more. This is more jobs, more use cases, or more extension of the product. You put that in your premium plans or as an add-on for those who want to pay for that. And then the unlock the whole new use case, maybe even a different user, a different TAM, something different. you're able to isolate that, charge it as a standalone, and then you can even bundle it with your core and your platform as well. It also gives you some competitive advantages to be able to use it to penetrate new markets. And so if you think about those three, right, underscore the core of your product, you want to upgrade the more, those extra use cases you're bringing in, and then you want to unlock the new, that's positioning. Fold it in, add on premium, or have it as a standalone. If you're not sure, if you're like, well, Marcos, it kind of is all over, like that probably means you're not clear with what you're trying to do. But the safest path would be add on first, and then decide if you want to fold it in or keep it separate based on the usage patterns, who's buying it, and what they're doing. Gemini did it, Slack did it, Notion did it. They had the add-on for a while. I think it was like $10 a user, and then they ended up folding it in after that.
Right. And you know, if a founder is listening to the podcast right now and they could do one thing differently with their pricing this quarter, what advice would you give to them?
So one thing to do differently with the pricing this quarter, I would say, is do not introduce an outcome-based metric or some type of usage base that people don't freaking understand. Let me give you an example. This goes for credits too, by the way. What I'm seeing is that they're copying someone else and introducing a credit, and the credit has a very, very vague definition. Or I saw someone the other day use per action. We're going to charge you per action. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, people don't know what that means. Oh, well, it can mean this and it can mean that. I'm like, stop the confusion. Like, people are already going up the learning curve with adopting AI. Don't put confusing pricing on top of that, right? And it just makes it really frustrating for a user. So I would say the biggest thing you can do this quarter is resist the temptation to copy, okay? And be very intentional with your pricing. Because in the software world, been doing this for decades now, there is a very copy-paste mentality. I'm just going to call it what it is, right? You see it, oh, that looks good. I'm going to try that and put that on my price. Don't do that. Just think about your own value, what you need to do, your specific customers, where you are in your journey, and price for that. It's okay to get ideas and to get inspiration, but please do not copy. That's my big advice.
Got it. Makes sense. And I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
It's actually surprising me because it's not, I don't think people would look at it as a business book, but it's Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. It's a book about the best restaurant in the world and how they ran it. It's really, really surprised me as a good business book in terms of how to think and innovate and maximize every touch point with your customer. So Unreasonable Hospitality, good one. Surprise.
Got it. I don't know. I've read the book, really loved it. I'm going to put that in the show notes. And if you could go back in time when you started your career in product management or pricing, what is the one thing you would have done, or done differently?
I would say, it's a long time ago, man. I gotta go back. If I had to replay back and go talk to my 20-something self when I was back there, I would probably invest more in networking and relationships. You're going to laugh at me, but I'm an introvert, a very, very high-scoring introvert, okay? I just love talking to people, right? But I'm exhausted after I'm talking to people. So I was naturally just working in my own little corners, reading, understanding, not investing in a lot of relationships. And I started doing that more as I started getting more senior positions and moving up, and wish I would have done it sooner. So yeah, investing in relationships and networks.
Got it. And do you have any favorite online tool, for example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom, ChatGPT?
Lately I've been liking the Granola note-taking app as my favorite, and I'm just getting started with Clay AI, and it seems to be pretty powerful.
So you're saying clay.com, or is that another tool?
Yeah. No, just the Clay, what is it? The
lead generation thing.
The lead generation. Yeah, Clay.com, the AI tool.
Yeah.
That
super
one.
interesting.
It seems really powerful.
Yeah.
But Granola it just works. It takes all my meetings, puts it in there. I like it.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. And Marcos, you also written a book called Street Pricing, and you're also launching a newsletter. So what's your sort of writing cadence, and how can people know more about your newsletter and as well as your book?
Yeah. I think that, the age of just hiding all information about monetization and pricing is over. I think people need to know these things. Entrepreneurs, founders, all the way to SaaS operators, executives. You can find me on LinkedIn at Marcos Rivera. Just follow me on LinkedIn. I publish a lot of stuff a lot of free stuff too. Also, we have a new newsletter called the Monetization Memo. Just send me a note in LinkedIn, and I'll get you on. It has some of the best content out there. My book, Street Pricing, is award-winning, and a lot of folks reference it as the blueprint and playbook for pricing, especially if you're not sure where to start. Makes it easy, approachable, and very practical. So a lot of things there for folks to take advantage of.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. Marcus, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Rohit, it was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for the great questions.
Thank you.